What happens when a beloved chat show host faces off against royalty gone rogue in front of millions of viewers? It only took one comment about charity work for Prince Harry to completely unravel on live television, leading to the most shocking ejection in talk show history. The studio audience was buzzing with excitement. Graham Norton, the king of late-night television, was sitting in his iconic chair, ready to interview one of the most famous people in the world. Prince Harry had flown in specially for the show, and everyone expected a charming, lighthearted conversation. After all, Graham Norton's show was known for its fun atmosphere, celebrity banter, and that famous red chair. But from the very first moment Harry walked onto the stage, something felt off. The audience clapped and cheered as Harry made his entrance. He waved, but his smile seemed forced. Graham stood up to greet him, extending his hand warmly. "Welcome, welcome. So lovely to have you here," Graham said, his voice full of genuine warmth. Harry shook his hand but barely made eye contact. "Thanks for having me," he mumbled. They both sat down, and Graham launched into his usual welcoming banter. "Now, you've been incredibly busy lately. Tell us what you've been up to." Harry leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Well, Graham, I've been doing actual important work. Real work, not just sitting around asking celebrities silly questions." The audience went quiet. A few nervous laughs scattered through the crowd. Graham's smile stayed fixed, but you could see a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Right. Well, we all do our bit, don't we?" Graham said lightly, trying to move past the jab. "Tell us about your recent charity initiative." "It's not just an initiative, Graham. It's a movement. Something you wouldn't understand because you're too busy in your bubble of celebrity nonsense." Graham shifted in his seat. "I see. Well, many of our viewers support various charities too. What makes your work so different?" Harry scoffed. "What makes it different? Everything. I actually care. I'm actually making a difference. Not like these people." He gestured dismissively toward the other guests waiting on the couch, who just show up, tell a funny story, and go home. The camera cut to the other celebrity guests. Their faces showed pure shock. One of them, a beloved British actress, looked like she'd been slapped. Graham's professionalism kicked in. "Well, I think everyone here cares deeply about various causes. In fact, didn't you just attend a film premiere last week? That seems rather, how did you put it, celebrity nonsense?" "That was different," Harry snapped. "I was there to raise awareness." "Raise awareness by walking a red carpet and posing for photos?" Graham asked, his tone still friendly but with a slight edge now. "You don't get it, do you? You sit here in your little studio, making jokes, while I'm out there actually changing lives." The audience was dead silent now. Graham took a breath. "Harry, I've hosted this show for years. I've had everyone from activists to world leaders to, yes, actors and musicians. They've all used this platform to discuss important issues. Just last week, we raised over £2 million for children's hospitals. So perhaps we're not so different after all." Harry's face reddened. "Don't compare yourself to me. You have no idea what real pressure is like. No idea what it's like to carry the weight I carry every single day." "You're right. I don't know what your life is like," Graham said calmly. "But I do know that every person has their struggles, their pressures. And belittling others doesn't make your work more important." "Belittling?" Harry laughed bitterly. "This is exactly why I stopped doing these pointless interviews. People like you, Graham, you're all the same. You ask your pre-written questions, you laugh at your own jokes, and you think you're special." Graham's expression hardened slightly. "Harry, I'm going to be honest with you. You came on this show voluntarily. Nobody forced you to be here. If you find it so pointless, why did you agree to come?" "Because my team said it would be good publicity," Harry shot back. "But they were wrong. This is beneath me." The audience gasped. Graham sat up straighter. "Beneath you?" "Yes, beneath me. Do you know who I am? Do you know what family I come from?" "I'm well aware," Graham said, his voice steady. "But Harry, being born into a family doesn't make you better than anyone else in this room. Not better than me, not better than our audience. Not better than the crew working behind these cameras." Harry stood up suddenly. "How dare you speak to me like that?" Graham remained seated, composed. "I'm speaking to you like I would speak to any guest who comes on my show and treats people with disrespect. You've insulted me. You've insulted my other guests, and frankly, you've insulted everyone watching." "I don't have to listen to this," Harry said, his voice rising. "You're absolutely right. You don't. The door is right there." Harry's eyes widened. "Are you telling me to leave?" Graham stood up now, matching Harry's stance. "I'm saying that if you believe this show is beneath you, if you think the work we do here is meaningless, then perhaps you shouldn't be here." You can't kick me off. Do you know what will happen to your ratings? To your career? The audience started murmuring. Graham walked closer to Harry, his voice calm but firm. Harry, my career has been built on treating people with respect and creating a space where everyone feels welcome. I've had prime ministers, Oscar winners, and yes, royalty on this show. Never, not once, has anyone behaved the way you're behaving right now. That's because they all want something from you, Harry spat. They want your platform, your audience. Well, I don't need it. Then why are you still standing here? Graham asked. Harry pointed his finger at Graham. You're going to regret this. When this airs, everyone will see how you treated me. Oh, it's airing live, Harry. They're seeing it right now. Harry's face went pale. He'd clearly forgotten they were broadcasting live to millions of viewers. He looked at the cameras, then back at Graham. This is a setup, Harry stammered. A setup? Graham said, incredulous. Harry, every word that's come out of your mouth has been your choice. I've asked you simple questions, and you've responded with insults and condescension because you don't respect me. I welcomed you with open arms. I introduced you with warmth and excitement, and you repaid that by telling me my life's work is meaningless. The other guests on the couch were watching like spectators at a tennis match, their heads turning back and forth between Graham and Harry. Harry turned to the audience. You all saw it. He attacked me first. The audience sat in stunned silence. Not a single person clapped or voiced support. Graham sighed. Harry, I think it's time for you to leave. You can't make me leave. Actually, I can. This is my show, and I will not allow anyone, I don't care who they are, to come here and disrespect the people who make this show what it is. Harry's jaw clenched. Fine, I'll leave. But everyone will hear about this. Everyone will know how Graham Norton, the so-called king of chat shows, threw out a prince. Let them hear about it, Graham said quietly. I'd rather be known for standing up for decency than for allowing entitled behavior. Harry started walking toward the exit, but he stopped and turned back. You know what your problem is, Graham? You're jealous. Jealous that you'll never be more than a talk show host while I was born into greatness. The audience collectively gasped. Even the cameramen looked shocked. Graham didn't flinch. Harry, I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud of the joy the show brings to people. I'm proud of the platform we've created for important conversations. If that makes me just a talk show host, then I'm perfectly happy being just that. You're pathetic, Harry muttered. And you're leaving, Graham replied firmly. Harry walked toward the wings of the stage, but before he disappeared, he shouted back, My lawyers will be in touch. I look forward to it, Graham called after him. The second Harry was off stage, the audience erupted into applause. They stood up, giving Graham a standing ovation that lasted nearly a full minute. Graham stood there, looking a bit shaken but trying to smile through it. When the applause finally died down, Graham returned to his seat. He looked at the other guests on the couch. Well, he said, exhaling deeply, that was unexpected. The British actress leaned forward. Graham, you handled that with such grace. He was absolutely horrible to you. He was horrible to all of us, Graham said. But you know what? I genuinely hope he finds peace. That level of anger, that need to put others down, it comes from a very unhappy place. The audience applauded again, this time more warmly, more supportively. Graham turned to the camera. Right. Well, shall we try this again? We have a wonderful show for you tonight, despite that rather rocky start. But he couldn't quite move on yet. The audience was still buzzing, still processing what they'd witnessed. One brave audience member shouted, You did the right thing, Graham. Graham smiled genuinely this time. Thank you. You know, I've been doing this job for a very long time. I've learned that kindness matters, respect matters, and no amount of fame or title gives anyone the right to treat others as less than. The actress nodded vigorously. Absolutely. The way he spoke about your work, about this show, it was disgraceful. The thing is, Graham continued, this show has always been about bringing people together, making them laugh, yes, but also having real conversations. And that only works when there's mutual respect. Another guest, a comedian, chimed in. Mate, I've been on this show 6 times. Every single time, you've made me feel like the most important person in the room. That's a gift. What he said was complete rubbish. Graham's eyes got a bit misty. That means a lot, truly. The audience gave another round of applause. Graham composed himself and turned back to the camera. Now, I promise we have a much more pleasant show ahead. We've got wonderful guests, great music, and hopefully no more drama. Everyone laughed, releasing the tension that had built up in the room. The British actress leaned over and squeezed Graham's hand. "For what it's worth, you're a class act. Always have been." Graham squeezed back. "Thank you, darling. Right, let's talk about your new film, shall we? Something tells me you won't tell me it's beneath you to be here." She laughed. "Never. I'm thrilled to be here." As the show continued, Graham fell back into his natural rhythm. He was charming, funny, and kind to his guests. But every now and then, you could see him glance toward the wings where Harry had exited, a look of genuine sadness crossing his face. During a commercial break, the comedian leaned over. "You all right, mate?" Graham nodded. "Yeah, just disappointed, I suppose. I really did want to have a nice conversation with him, find out what he's working on, what drives him. Instead, well, you saw what happened. His loss," the actress said firmly. "Completely his loss." When they came back from the break, Graham addressed the audience directly. "I want to say something quickly. What happened earlier? It's not how I wanted this show to start. But I also want you all to know that every single person who comes on this show, from the biggest stars to the person sitting in our red chair, they all deserve respect. And they all deserve to be treated with dignity." The audience erupted once more. "We're all just people," Graham continued. "Some of us have fancier titles than others. Some of us have had extraordinary opportunities. But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to do our best. And when someone forgets that, when someone starts believing they're above basic human decency, well, that's when we have problems." One audience member shouted, "We love you, Graham." Graham laughed, a real genuine laugh. "I love you too. Now, can we please get back to having some fun?" The rest of the show went brilliantly. The guests were extra warm, extra funny, as if trying to make up for the disaster at the beginning. They told hilarious stories, promoted their projects, and the atmosphere became exactly what Graham Norton's show was known for: warm, welcoming, and wildly entertaining. But the moment that opened the show, that confrontation between Graham and Harry, that was what everyone would remember. That was the moment when one of television's nicest hosts stood his ground against entitlement and arrogance. As the show wrapped up and the credits began to roll, Graham gave his usual warm goodbye to the audience. "Thank you so much for being here tonight, both in the studio and at home. It's been quite a night, hasn't it?" The audience laughed and cheered. "Remember," Graham said with a twinkle in his eye, "be kind to each other. Life's too short to be anything else." Backstage, after the cameras stopped rolling, Graham sat in his dressing room. His producer came in, looking concerned. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Graham shrugged. "Honestly, I feel okay. I didn't want it to happen that way, but I'm not going to apologize for standing up for basic decency." "You shouldn't apologize. You were perfect. The switchboard is lighting up with support. Social media is going crazy. Everyone's on your side." Graham waved his hand dismissively. "It's not about sides. I genuinely feel sad for him. To be that angry, that defensive, something must be really wrong." "You're too nice," the producer said with a smile. "Maybe," Graham agreed, "but I'd rather be too nice than too cruel." The producer left, and Graham sat alone for a moment, reflecting on the night. He'd been in television for decades. He'd seen it all: difficult guests, awkward moments, technical disasters. But tonight had been different. Tonight had tested something deeper than his ability to think on his feet or make people laugh. Tonight had tested his principles, and he'd passed. He stood up, grabbed his coat, and headed for the exit. Tomorrow, the media would be in a frenzy. There would be articles, think pieces, debates about what had happened. But tonight, Graham just wanted to go home, have a cup of tea, and maybe watch something mindless on television. As he walked through the backstage corridors, staff members stopped him to offer support. The cameramen, the sound technicians, the makeup artists, they all told him he'd done the right thing. "Thanks, everyone." Graham said warmly, "You're all wonderful. See you next week." Outside, his car was waiting. As he slid into the back seat, his phone buzzed with messages. Friends, colleagues, even other celebrities reaching out to voice their support. He scrolled through a few, smiling at the kindness. But one message made him pause. It was from another talk show host, someone he respected enormously. "Proud of you tonight. You showed what integrity looks like. That couldn't have been easy." Graham typed back quickly. "Thank you. It wasn't, but it felt right." As the car pulled away from the studio, Graham looked out the window at the London streets passing by. Somewhere out there, Harry was probably fuming, probably already spinning the story to make himself look like the victim. But Graham knew the truth. Millions of viewers knew the truth. They'd all seen exactly what happened. A prince had come onto a talk show expecting to be treated like royalty, expecting deference and admiration. Instead, he'd met a host who believed that respect goes both ways, regardless of titles or birthright. And when forced to choose between keeping a famous guest happy and standing up for his values, Graham had chosen his values without hesitation. The city lights blurred past the window as Graham's phone continued to buzz with messages of support. He silenced it and closed his eyes, letting himself finally relax. It had been quite a night that started with anticipation and excitement, descended into chaos and confrontation, and ended with a powerful statement about dignity and respect. Tomorrow, the world would still be talking about it. But tonight, Graham Norton could rest easy, knowing he'd stayed true to himself and to the values that had made his show a beloved institution. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really mattered. The car wound through the quiet streets, taking Graham home. Behind him, the studio stood dark and empty, already preparing for next week's show. The crew would arrive tomorrow to break down the set, to review the footage, to prepare for whatever came next. But the memory of tonight would linger. In the audience members who witnessed it, in the viewers who watched from home, in the staff who supported their host when he needed it most, and in Graham himself, who'd learned that sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing to do. The show would go on. It always did. But tonight had proven something important. That kindness doesn't mean being a pushover. That respect is non-negotiable. And that even the most polite, most gracious host has a line that shouldn't be crossed. Harry had crossed that line, and he'd paid the price for it. As Graham's car disappeared into the London night, the story was just beginning to spread across the internet. Within hours, it would be global news. Within days, it would be analyzed and debated from every angle, but the facts would remain simple and clear. A guest came on a show and treated everyone with contempt. A host gave him chances to course correct. When he didn't, when he doubled down on his arrogance, he was asked to leave. No scandal, no conspiracy, just consequences for poor behavior. And in a world where fame often shields people from accountability, where titles and privilege can excuse almost anything, this was a refreshing reminder that some people still believe in basic human decency above all else. Graham Norton was one of those people, and tonight he'd proven it to millions.